Hello and assalamu alaikum, everyone. A very warm welcome to the day 2 of the AAA webinar to success for December 23 exams, and I am Kashif Kamran. Just a reminder, these are free content for my YouTube channel, and you can still register for the premium content of the webinars I'm doing since December 23 exams, or the given number at the bottom of screen. Simply WhatsApp me at +92333 2383 442. Let's begin the day 2 proceedings of the webinar. Now, in terms of the day 1, we captured the study strategy you should adopt for the last 30 days before exams. Now, on the day 2, it's about reinforcement of the changes which came into the AAA exams since September 22. And today is a session 1 of those changes, followed by a session 2 on the day 3. Welcome to the day 2 of the webinar to success for AAA. The changes in AAA since September 22, session number 1, are important because all the students who are doing self-study or are not associated with any tutor or approved learning providers, you should have a clear idea of the changes which has came in AAA since September 22. Now, when we look at the changes in AAA since September 22, the changes are all around the question number 1, which is the 50 marks case study. And yes, the introduction of the 20 professional marks for the whole set of paper. The first thing is the changes in how the student needs to calculate and comment on the materiality in the question number 1. And I will be demonstrating that perhaps on the day 3. The next is the introduction of terms, significant business risk. So this word has been added, significant, and prioritize significant audit risk or risk of material misstatement. This word, prioritize significant audit risk or risk of material misstatement. Now, what are examiner expectation with this word significant and what you should demonstrate? Or what are examiner expectation with the word prioritize and significant, and what you should do in a question on audit risk and risk of material misstatement? And then again, what are examiner expectations with calculating and commenting on the materiality in the first question since September 22 exams? Different ways in which an audit risk or risk of material misstatement question could be set in, and this was clarified by the examiner in the article written under the syllabus area D, which I even mentioned on the day 1 in exam techniques, approaching section A question. And if you read through that article, examiner has given you different ways in which a question on audit risk or risk of material misstatement could be tested in the future exams. And already one example of that do exist in the June 23 exams, and I'll be showing you that on ideally today or day 3. Marking schemes, yes, there has been some fine-tuning of the marking schemes. Examining team has made the marking schemes more consistent across the paper, and I will be covering the particular marking schemes on day 4 of my webinar, so stay tuned for that. And then the professional marks, 20 professional marks added to the paper since September 22, and I'll be focusing on how you can grab most of them on day 5 specifically. But for the day 2 and day 3, we are looking at the bullet number 1, 2, and 3, which is the changes which has been brought into how you calculate and comment on materiality in question number 1, the introduction of the term significant with business risk, and the introduction of the word prioritize and significant with audit risk and ROM, and then the different ways in which a question on audit risk and ROM could be set in. So it's all about question 1. It's all about changes in question number 1, except for the bullet number 4 and 5, which affects the overall 100 marks paper. So let's take a scan of a recent question number 1 to understand the changes around materiality, changes around the term significant business risk, and changes around the term prioritize and significant audit risk and ROM. And then I'll be doing a demonstration of that through the examiner report on day 3 of this webinar. Okay, let me put in front of you a recent paper. Let's first take in a paper right now in front of your screen. This is the December 22 paper, a very latest one on the practice platform. You can see this is the December 22 paper. And this is the email of the partner. And in the email of the partner, we just need to see how things have changed since September 22 exams. You must have seen emails prior to September 22 exams and emails from September 22 exams, just to see how things have changed and that's what you need to prepare yourself for December 23 exams. Okay, you read the email. It says, to the audit manager from Ted Hastings, the audit engagement partner, subject audit planning, Mercury Company, and date is the 1st of July. The partner says hello to the manager. With the year end approaching, I need to start planning the audit of Mercury Company. I met the company's finance director, Kate, last week to discuss recent developments for business. I have provided you means the manager, with a summary of matters discussed at the meeting, along with some projected financial information. Based on the analysis I have done, the partner has done, on the industry, it is appropriate for the overall materiality to be based on the company's profit before tax, as this is the key measure for investors and providers of finance. I require you to prepare a briefing note for my use, in which you, and the question comes in. Now, the first change is that the partner, whenever the partner will write an email to the manager, he will tell the manager on what basis you should set the materiality for the question number 1. And right here, the partner is saying, based on my analysis I have done on this industry, it is appropriate for the overall materiality to be based on company's profit before tax, as this is a key measure for investors and provider of finance. So the partner will tell you the basis on which the materiality is to be calculated for the question number 1 when you're writing the briefing note. How would you demonstrate this? How would you put this in? How would you calculate this in? How many marks will you get for this? Where to place this in the briefing note? All such things will be addressed on the day 3 of the webinar. So I'm copying this statement, Control C, and I'll take it on my Word file, which I will be using for the webinar. Right here, you can see the Word file on your screen, and we are doing changes in AAA since September 22, session 1. And the first change we are discussing about is the materiality statement. Materiality statement given by partner in the email, and this is in the question number 1, definitely. And this is the email we got. This is the statement, sorry, we got. Control V. This is what the partner was telling us. In one of the question, we are attempting over the day 2 and day 3. And this is from the December 2020 paper, question number 1. So the partner is saying that based upon my analysis, my manager, you need to calculate the overall materiality based upon the profit before tax, as I find this as a more appropriate measure for investors and provider of finance. So you need to determine the materiality on profit before tax. Now, my questions is that, first of all, you need to understand marks allocation with this statement given by partner, how to calculate and comment on it, on materiality, and where to place this materiality calculation, comment and calculation in the briefing note. So we will be discussing all that on day 3, because currently on the day 2, we're just trying to identify the changes and putting them on the Word file, and we'll pick them, each of them up, and we'll see how to do the best over the day 3. So that's one thing, right? Changes in AAA since September 22, and the first of the change is the materiality statement. And we just took one example from December 20, question number 1, December 22, sorry, question number 1. And this is how we found this statement from the partner email, and we'll be drilling that on the day 3. Okay, let's go back, find another change. You go back to the practice platform and the partner was saying, I would like you to prepare a briefing note. And in the briefing note, you should do A, B, C, D. Now in the A, the partner says, evaluate significant business risk. Business risk was a regular part, right, of the AAA exams ever since they started, but the term added here is significant. So what expectation this word carry in exam paper, what extra you need to do, or you're not doing anything extra for this word significant. We just need to have a clarity on that on day 3. So the term that is emphasizable here, which is important for exams even in December 23, I'm just taking it back on my Word file. The next change was for business risk. And this is what the change is for business risk for you to remember. The use of term significant in exam requirement. That's the change which you should be familiar with as well. And if you can just copy paste the change which we got from the December 22 question number 1A. And just give me 1 second. If I can just remove this yellow highlighting option from here, and we can then just paste the question right over here. This is the question, right, which was being asked for evaluate. But the important part of this evaluate is significant. Red and underline. That is what we need to get the answer from the examiner report. What is your examiner expecting the student should do when they get to this word significant for business risk? You know how to explain business risk. You know how to evaluate a business risk. You must have done a couple of questions on that, but we just need to focus on the addition of the word significant and how will that impact your answer on the day 3 of the webinar. So that is the emphasizable part. So questions around it. What are examiner expectations around the word significant being used for business risk, and what the student should do? So we'll explore that on the day 3. So please ensure the day 2 and day 3 are connected, so you're watching the recordings in a logical order. So that's the second change, right, we got into. So the first change was the materiality statement. The second change is the business risk and that use of the term significant. Let's move on to the next change. Okay, we move down and we get to the third change now. Back to the practice platform, December 22 paper. Number 2, B. Evaluate and prioritize the significant risk of material misstatement which needs to be considered in our audit planning. Evaluate and prioritize the significant risk of material misstatements. Now, the important thing here is the 2 elements. Number 1 is significant and number 2 is prioritize. We didn't found prioritize in business risk. So business risk shouldn't be prioritized. It's only about significant business risk you're extracting from the case material and writing them down. But in the case of ROM, there are 2 things. One is the significance, and with the significance, you need to prioritize them in order from like most important to least important, or most significant to least significant. How would you do that? So Control C, and we take this to the Word file back again. And this is the third change we're looking for, which is the change around audit risk and risk of material misstatement. It's for both, right? It's for both, even though we're doing a question from December 20 paper, but this change is affecting both the audit risk and risk of material misstatement. And you should be familiar with this from exam perspective. So this is the third change coming in. And the change right here is the change in requirement for audit risk and risk of material misstatement. That is open inverted commas. Just give me 1 second, removing this this yellow highlighting, and this is what the question is, and close inverted comma. Now, see this. This question is asking us to prioritize. Number 1, red and underline, and number 2 is significant, again, red and underline. So we need to find the meaning of this in the day 3. What is the expectation of the examining team? What are they looking for in your answer in terms of that prioritization and insignificance to give you marks? So what will you do as a student? What are examining team expectations with the word number 1, prioritize, and number 2 with the word significant? And what you should do as a student in terms of your answer to impress the examiner with prioritization and with significance. So we need to see into that so that when you're writing in the answer, you are writing an impressive answer. So 3 changes on your screen so far. 1 around the materiality statement by the partner in the question number 1. Then secondly, the business risk, the word significant has come in business risk, and then the word prioritize and significant has come in audit risk and ROM. So these are changes which are important. Now moving on to another question, which is the June 23 paper. And in the June 23 paper, the question number 1, we get the last of the changes. So the first change is the way you calculate and comment the materiality through the statement of the partner in the email. Then the introduction of the term significant with business risk, and then the introduction of the word significant and prioritize for audit risk and ROM. The fourth and the final changes, if I can just take you first to the presentation. In the presentation, we talked about number 1, the changes in how to calculate and comment on the materiality. We took an example of that from December 22, valid for all exams. Introduction of the term significant for business risk, we have done that. Prioritize and significant audit risk and ROM, we have done that. The last way is different ways in which a question on risk can be set in. This is covered in the examiner article, which is approaching the section A question under syllabus area D, and the examiner did tested that change in the June 23 paper, and I just want to emphasize on that. So let's go back to the practice platform and just let's open the June 23 paper now. In the June 23 paper, the latest one, the June 23 paper, if I can just resume that. I hope you can see that in front of your screen now. This is basically the June 23 paper, the latest one. And if you open up the partner email, lots of things will be similar. Again, the partner email in June 23 paper says, I have concluded that revenue is an appropriate basis for materiality as company's revenue has historically been stable. So see, in this question, the partner wants the materiality to be based on revenue. He thinks revenue as an ideal basis for determining the materiality. So Control C, and we take it back to the Word file. And in the Word file, we're getting another statement. This was from December 22 paper, and this is from the June 23 paper, question number 1, open inverted commas, and the partner wants the revenue to be used as basis for materiality. Okay, you go back to what we were looking for. Okay, then the next thing is that I want you to prepare the briefing note. That's perfectly fine. Evaluate and prioritize the significant risk of material misstatement. We've already taken that perspective from December 22 paper. Then in the next part, examining team says using exhibit 3 and 4, not 1 and 2. So examining team is saying which exhibits to use, 3 and 4, comma, justify why inventory has been identified as a significant risk of material misstatement. So that means in a case study, the partner must have already concluded that inventory is a significant risk, but examiner wants the justification why the partner considered inventory as a significant risk. What are underlying justifications? On what basis, on what grounds the partner thought that inventory is a significant risk? So you need to justify that. So that means when you're writing the part 1 answer for this, evaluate and prioritize the significant risk of material misstatement, you will not be considering inventory in your answer because you have separate marks allocated for inventory in B requirement. And see, the examining team has written the note number. You are not required to consider risk relating to inventory. Why? Because there is a specific requirement on inventory in the B part. So inventory will not be part of your 18 marks answer here. But when you come to the B part, you need to justify why inventory has been considered as a significant risk of material misstatement and design the principal audit procedures you should plan on plan to address the risk in inventory. So this is the connecting requirement B. So let's take this down. This is the last change you should be familiar from question number 1. And let's bring this change down to June 23, question number 1B. And this is the change in the way a risk question could be tested. Which risk question? Risk of material misstatement question could be tested. Risk of material misstatement question could be tested. And this is the change. Using Exhibit 3 and 4, number 1, justify why inventory has been identified as a significant risk. And number 2, design the procedures which should be included in the audit plan to address those risks. Which risk? Those risks. The risk which you must have identified in the inventory. So the risk you must have found in inventory. Examining team is asking that what sort of procedures will you make on the risk you have identified in the inventory? The total marks are 14 for 1 and 2. And you can see the word "and" here. This requirement is breaking down here. You can see this word "and." So justifying why inventory has been identified as significant risk, how would you justify? Will you get information from the case to justify the basis on which inventory has been identified as significant risk? What is the examiner expecting in terms of your answer? And then procedures is a very regular part, right, of the AAA paper. You get procedures in the question number 1, but this time the examiner is asking for procedures on the risk you have identified in inventory. You're not writing journal procedures of inventory. You are writing procedures which should be around the risk you have identified in inventory in B1. So we'll see examiner expectations around this question. What are examiner expectations in terms of justification of significant justification of why inventory has been identified as significant risk of material misstatement. So we are not doubting why inventory is a significant ROM. We just need to justify why it has been identified as a significant risk of material misstatement. So we'll see the approach to the answer on the day 3, and we'll see the marking schemes of that. And then again, procedures addressing risk within inventory. And then the marking schemes. So we'll see all that on the day 3, but this is the last change. And this change has come in line with the examining team writing an article approaching the Section A question. Please do read that. I've emphasized that multiple times since day 1 now. So look at this word file. This will be extremely important when we'll open the day 3. 4 changes in question number 1. That's the only change. Professional marks is a change which is affecting not just the question 1, it's also affecting the question 2 and 3. So we'll deal them on the final day when we look at the professional marks. The materiality statement given by the partner in the email and how to approach that. We saw examples from December 22 and June 23. Then business risk and the introduction of the term significant in business risk and how to deal with significant. Then in the case of the audit risk and ROM, the introduction of the term prioritize and the introduction of the term significant, and what are examiner expectations around that. We'll be covering that. And then the fourth and the final change in line with the examiner article is the way a risk question could be formulated in a different manner. Just like in the June 23 paper, examiner asked for justify why inventory is a specific or a significant risk of material misstatement. You need to give justifications for that. Each justification will give you 1 mark, and then a procedure on the risk you've identified in inventory. So quite a case-specific question. 3 and 4 exhibit needs to be looked into, and the answer will come from 3 and 4 definitely, because the examiner is saying 3 and 4 and write an answer for 14 marks. So these are 4 changes all of you should be familiar with on your screen now. Marking scheme changes, that is something to be covered on day 4 specifically. But when I'll discuss the changes on day 3, and I'll go deep inside the changes, which I've just put on the Word file, I'll be guiding you the marking scheme with each change. And then we'll do a more holistic marking scheme analysis on day 4. And the introduction of the 20 professional marks, 10 of them in question 1 and 10 of them in section B, we'll be doing them specifically on day 5. So be familiar with changes. Be familiar with past papers from September 22 onwards, how the term significant or how the term prioritize have come in, or how the materiality statement has been brought into the partner email, and how would you justify that why a certain risk has been considered as significant. What justifications will you give in? Will that be case specific? Will that be knowledge focused? We'll get to that answer on the day 3. So I hope you would have understood that recent changes from the scan of question number 1, which I took from June 23 and December 22. And the day 3 is in continuation of the day 1, where we'll go deep inside looking at examiner expectations and examiner reports around the changes which have come in, which will better help you understand the approach you should take for the answer. So this is it from the day 2 of the ongoing December 23 webinar for AAA. Again, the free content publicly available on YouTube, and you can still register it for the premium versions by just putting a WhatsApp message to me on a given number. Take good care of yourself. Wish you all success. Your tutor, Kashif Kamran, signing off from day 2